Of course, we are changing the character of partnerships. The new government has come in with a partnerships focus in our relationship with developing countries, and we've started entering into a structured set of partnership arrangements with the countries of the Pacific. Pacific Development Partnerships, where we've signed one with Samoa, we've signed one with Papua New Guinea, we have them under negotiation with Vanuatu, with Kiribati, with Tonga, and we will proceed to do so with other countries in the Pacific over the next 18 months or so. So there's that form of partnership with partner countries, and similarly under the Accra agenda for aid effectiveness, we are seeking to enter into a partnership at that level. We're looking for enhanced partnerships with the multilateral agencies. In the last budget, there was a scarcely noticed initiative called the UN Partnership for the Millennium Development Goals, where we set down a 4-year program of $200 million to enhance Australia's engagement with those United Nations agencies working most directly and effectively for the Millennium Development Goals, including the UNDP. Now, the reason it went scarcely unnoticed is because last year this budget, we only committed $10 million of that $200 million, because we are scoping how we will apply that 200. We're not just going to spread it across every agency with an equal amount of money. How are we going to focus it? So we have in the next 3 years the capacity to make a substantial difference in that partnership. And it's very important. Australia has underperformed in terms of our partnership with the rest of the globe in this fight against global poverty. But most obviously inside Australia, the first partnership people think about is with non-government organisations. I don't want to talk at length about that because I want others to have a chance to speak and to respond to your questions, but let me just give you the background. Australia provides 4% of its aid through non-government organisations. The median range amongst the 21 developed countries for whom statistics is available, the median is about 9%. That is, if you'll allow my arithmetic to be rough, that's about double. It's in fact, when you take the percentage, the percentage was slightly more than double what Australia does. And while we are not committed necessarily to taking it to 9%, we're certainly committed to increasing the proportion of our aid that's spent through NGOs, not just because we like them, which might be true, but because they can do things we can't do. The partnership enables NGOs to do things in countries where sometimes we are constrained politically from doing things. Australian NGOs do good work in Zimbabwe, in Burma, where we as a government are constrained from operating. And also even in countries where we do operate, such as Papua New Guinea, where we have a very big program, our NGOs deliver important services on the ground that's not so easy for the government to do, or that enhances and reinforces what the government does. So we're going to increase it. When you put the two things I've said together, it will be an increasing proportion of an increasing budget. So it is possible, if, for example, we doubled the percentage of our aid going through NGOs and we increased the budget as I've outlined, the amount available for NGOs could be 5 times what it is now. Now, the first blush of every NGO is to say, oh, that's terrific. For some of them, they need to think about how much they want to be dependent on the government for their funding. Perfectly legitimate question. They don't all want to get 5 times as much money from us because we might become too big a part of their funding base, and they want to be independent of the government. Or they have to be sure that they can spend it effectively and that their management systems will cope with such an increase. But overall, we're confident that we can substantially increase the flow and enter into some new character of engagement as well with our NGOs. I want to mention 2 other things briefly in terms of partnerships. One that everybody talks about and is correct, which Hillary mentioned, which is Australian business. There is coming up the Business for Millennium Development Goals conference in Melbourne this week, and at which I'll be speaking, and I think the Foreign Minister and other representatives. And it's a very important engagement by the business community. Much of the activity that goes on, much of the economic growth, much of the lifting people out of poverty is done by the investment and activity of businesses, including Australian businesses. So we want to encourage them to be engaged in a positive way in this fight against global poverty. So that's another partnership which we're looking to develop and enhance, and there are new things we can do there. But I want to add one which is not always thought of, which is the research organisations. We are increasing the amount of money, very small in the overall aid budget, a very small part of $8 billion, but we want to be better informed about what world's best practice is, about new ways in which we might do things, about how well what we and others are doing are achieving outcomes. There are people in Australia and all around the world doing fascinating research about new and better ways of engaging in the struggle against global poverty, engaging in developing countries. We want to enter into more and bigger relationships with our research organisations around the universities and the independent institutes, but not just in Australia, around the world. Our research grants are available to people anywhere in the world because they're on AusAid website, they're in Australia, they're promoted in Australia. A high proportion of them are Australians, but they're open to people anywhere in the world. And the last lot of grants did come from people all around the world, and the research will be better for it. So that's another partnership that's not always thought of, but that's a very important part of the intellectual engagement in how we make the program better. So for all those reasons, partnerships is a critical part of making the program efficient and effective and explaining it better to Australians, which is a necessary part of enhancing, making sure that over the next few years we don't only make the program bigger, we make it better, and we build a core of community support. That means irrespective of future political outcomes and economic circumstances, there will be in Australia a bedrock commitment that an obligation of a modern government in a modern democracy is a commitment to the Millennium Development Goals, a commitment to the fight against global poverty, a commitment to development assistance in our region and around the world. And this series is a significant contribution to that debate, and I look forward to participating in it. Thank you.